No, I would like to see some kind of need-based phenomena more in society. And going back to the schools, what children in schools need, and I know since I lecture at the very top of the school system in not only Sweden but in the world, we are talking about research education and education of doctors and dentists and so on. And what children need, that's grown-up attention. They don't need things like this, and that's not what they need. They need love, understanding, caring. They need support. They need to grow, and so on. They don't need all of this stuff, So, but of course, saying that, I risk to be called old-fashioned or going backwards in time or whatever.
But
yeah, but sometimes I feel that maybe development for humans and mankind, maybe that must mean 2008 that we actually take some steps backwards. Maybe that will be the development, and more gadgets and more electronics and more microwaves will not solve the current needs. I'm sure of that,
Actually, I have some comments with us for so long. When you say go backwards, I talked to this German Dr. Döpp last year, and we were talking about the brain and what happens with all this electrosmog, and he just looked at me and he said, I'm sad to say, but I believe the game is over for humanity. He said, I believe the brain is about 100, 200 years back in development. Yeah. And when I don't know if you know Krishnamurti, the Indian teacher, but he was a spiritual or consciousness teacher. Yeah. And he said, technology has flown away and come so fast, but humanity has not moved one meter. Yeah. And when we talk about electronics and all this, I don't use a mobile phone or any wireless systems. I actually use a lot of things for my brain to harmonize my brain and the right and left side. And when I compare myself, I know we can't compare each other because we are different. But when I compare myself to my friends and others, my brain is just like functioning so much faster, sharper, and I'm very effective. I can do a lot of things in the same time, and when I talk to them, they never get things done, and they keep talking on this. I call it disconnection weapon. Leading to this syndrome called disconnection syndrome. It's Norman Geswind, the brain, American brain research, actually where the brain is not communicating anymore. And it's actually what I'm seeing, you're talking to people and they just don't seem to comprehend or can combine A, B, C, D. They can only look at one track at a time.
No, I agree. I agree 200%. I mean, I often feel that there is a movement of infantility among human beings, and I'm surprised to see that people, they could put a fortune on plastic surgery, on pumping their muscles and so on, but they don't put a crown, not a dollar, nothing on getting their brains into better function or training it or keeping it updated, and it's sort of a completely lost muscle of your body, and there are no training programs for it any longer. And to me it's surprising, but of course now we enter a very difficult area, because the question is, if you were, for instance, the president of the United States or the king or queen of Denmark or of Sweden or the prime minister, do you want to have a population of Morten Juliuses, or do you want to have a population of maybe more lazy, laid-back shopaholics, consumers, people not asking for anything? What is the easiest to cope with from a power point of view? It is, of course, tough to have people like you knocking on the door, putting questions, wanting to know, arguing, discussion, It's easier to have a sort of a big flow of human material just moving towards the next shop, the next product, the next television competition, the next music festival, whatever, And never asking for anything really, you know, never demanding answers to questions, and so we do enter very difficult areas, you know, and but
I normally say to people, there's one law in the universe, and that is what you are aware of, you become conscious of. And that means what you put your attention to, you will automatically get to know more about.
But I should just say, you know, I meet, for instance, people that are very interested in gardening. They have a little or a big garden, you know, and they develop a lot of ideas and spend a lot of time there. And that's very how should I say, rewarding, in the sense that they do not spend time in front of the television or the internet or computer games or so on, you know. They don't sit all the time sending SMS and so on, you know. And it's I mean, for my brain, it's much more rewarding to meet and talk with such people than with people which has a very narrow type of world and mind, you know. And I don't say that one is better than the other one. They're just different. And your brain needs to communicate with other brains, not with a grey wall, you know. And I think I don't have a mobile phone either. I just don't have a need for that. I mean, I don't have a need to have a thing that constantly would stress me, that would call me when I have breakfast, lunch or dinner, when I'm at the movies or the theater or opera, or if I'm reading a book, or if I'm talking with you. I think it was very unpolite if it was constantly ringing in my pocket, you know. And I remember when mobile phones were introduced in Sweden many years ago, you know, at that time there were big things, big chunks, they were carrying, you know, across their shoulder, and they were very expensive, extremely expensive. And then already then there was no debate about health issues at all, nothing. But already then I realized, you know, that I'm not a bodybuilder. I cannot lift these heavy things, you know. I just cannot do that. And I don't have like 50,000 Swedish crowns to spend on a toy. I'm not that rich. But above all, I'm not important. And I'm still not important. It's not me that sort of the world revolves around. So I don't need to be in constant sort of artificial contact with others, you know. And I don't mind not having a single call during a whole day. That's all right. I could take that, you know. And I realized that being unimportant, that is the important thing, you know. You have your place in the universe, if you want to say that, or on the planet Earth, but the place is very small, and you have to realize and understand that. And again, going back to children, maybe one should teach them a little bit more about philosophy, psychology and so on, rather than giving them a new computer, a new telephone. And I think